Well, Jerry Rideout has had a unique career path, you could say. Dropping out of school before grade 9, he spent his early years in forestry in Newfoundland before going back to school to study nuclear medicine and X-ray technology. He then became an instructor at NSCC, first in nuclear medicine and then in applied arts. And now in retirement, he's become an author, a journey that began after he started writing a short story every week for a year. The result of that is a new book called My Life in Short Form, and author Jerry Rideout joins us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
And that picture on the front of the book is from your brother's place.
Sitting on my brother's front porch, or front step, actually.
Yeah, and it's all about growing up in Kings Point, Newfoundland.
Yes, yes. And I think like most younger people, you don't see the beauty in anything until you leave and come back. Yeah. All you want to do is get the heck out.
Right.
And now when I go back, it's so different because it's stunningly beautiful. The fjord or bay or whatever you want to call it is full of whales and you know, sometimes icebergs. It's a beautiful spot.
It's like no other place on earth.
It's like really. No other place on earth.
Newfoundland is. What got you thinking about writing about growing up there to begin with?
Well, our kids grew up in a fairly decent house just outside of Halifax, and they had all the privileges that we see today. And when I would mention to them that, you know, when I was 11, I had no running water or indoor plumbing, and they would kind of say, "Sure, Dad." And so I started writing a story, and I noticed on a website in Newfoundland, some people would post poetry stories. And I asked if I could put up a story, and they said yes, and I got great feedback. And the next week I put in another, and the third week I put another. And they were really encouraging me. So I made a stupid promise that I would put one up every week for a year.
That's quite a promise to oneself. I don't know if I'd call it stupid, but ambitious.
Ambitious. Without them, I don't think I would have finished it.
Right.
Because they would notify me in the middle of the week and say, well, what's this week's story about?
Aha.
So, but it worked, and at the end of the year, I had 52 stories, and then because I didn't leave them on the web very long, I was getting emails saying, I told my brother about that story, and now it's not there, so you have to put them in a book.
So you did, and you self-published, you did all the work yourself.
I did everything
copy editing,
myself.
layout, there's illustrations in here that you did as well. How do you come up, or how do you recall all the memories you have in here? Because a lot of people, when you ask about their childhood, there are vague remembrances, but nothing so specific.
Well, I did have a little help. My first editors were the people in my hometown in Kings Point, because I would put something up and I'd get a letter saying, that was old Bob, not old Bill. And so that was my first editor. But I call it a book of faction, because 95% of it is true. The other bit I had to make up to make it run smoothly. Right. And who says the old guy didn't tell me this 40 years ago? Nobody can prove it anymore.
Nobody can prove it anymore. But it makes for entertaining reading, for sure.
It does.
Did the writing process, I mean, 52 stories in a year, one a week is a lot. Did that make you see growing up in Newfoundland differently, your life in Newfoundland differently?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because all these years, I hardly thought about it. But being prompted by people on the web, you know, when I would write a story, they say, well, why did you write about this thing? And I would go, oh yeah, I remember that. So I would do that as well. And I kind of treated it like I had a weekly column I had to write, and there was a deadline. And the deadline was usually Thursday, because I used to put it up on Sunday.
Got you.
Yeah.
So it was a good way to kind of help you deliver what you needed to deliver. There are great stories in here about, you know, hanging out with your dad, about your time, you know, working in the pulp and forestry industry, about hanging out on the government wharf or not hanging out on the government wharf.
Well, if my mother had anything to do with that, I wouldn't go near it.
You weren't supposed to, no. But that's a whole other story.
We all did, yes,
Exactly. Can folks get this?
Yes, I am self-published, but I've managed to get it in chapters in Halifax and Charlottetown, Newfoundland.
Nice.
It's a bookmark on Spring Garden Road. It's on Amazon in 14 countries.
Oh, nice.
And it is in All the libraries in Newfoundland have it, and
Wonderful.
Memorial University has it.
Oh, wonderful.
So,
oh, that's so great that also educational institutions have it as well, because there's a lot in here about, you know, living in Newfoundland in that period of time. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having
really
me.
Appreciate it. The book is My Life in Short Form by Jerry Rideout. Stories from his early life in Kings Point, Newfoundland. We have more CTV Morning Live coming up. Stay with us.